Hey, good afternoon. Kevin Keller here. Hey, just want to throw together a quick video to share with you guys out there some of the things that I'm seeing in some of these soybean fields. So either visiting with you guys on the phone or getting some calls, I've walked out, looked at some of these, and we're seeing a wide range in some of the yields on soybeans, anywhere from the 50s to upper 80s, even 90s. And a couple things I'm seeing out in these fields is we're seeing some broken off plants. Some guys are saying they're lodged. They're actually broke off at the ground, laying between the rows. And we're also seeing a fair amount of shattering going on out there. So kind of want to talk about how I'm seeing the two coincide in a lot of these fields. Obviously, we've had a lot of challenges this year, a lot of stresses. And we're seeing, to me, the sum of multiple stresses add up together all at once. And the additional stress in this equation, I firmly believe, is deck to stem bore. So typically we don't necessarily attribute stem bore to having a lot of yield loss unless we actually have lodging and true harvest loss because of this pest. So a little bit of background. This pest will emerge as an adult. It actually has a fairly long flight between July and August, where it actually lay eggs into the petiole of the plant. Once those eggs hatch, they'll actually bore into the plant. And that's what we see here in this picture is the true tunneling or boring within the pith of the soybean plant. So we don't necessarily get into a lot of the xylem or phloem, but the amount of tunneling that I'm seeing in some of these plants, true infestations of being 80, 90 to 100%, makes me believe that we're taking a lot of energy out of these plants with this additional stressor. At the end of the season, once that stem bore gets a heads up that soybean is senescing, it'll tunnel down. It'll actually girdle the plant and create a plug out of its frass. And at that point, that is a weak point that will break at the ground. Here's an example, just kind of zooming in on what that frass plug looks like. This is where the bore will actually overwinter, basically at the soil level right at the crown of that plant of the soybean. So that brings me full circle back to shattering and yield loss and even what I'm seeing on some of these fields. So a lot of these fields looked like they prematurely finished. The beans are a little bit smaller. The beans are stressed. We've had a lot of weather lately, going from wet to dry with the sun, 90-degree weather over the weekend, and we're seeing some shattering with that. Again, additional stress really shut these plants down. It seemed like early. Some of these plants looked like they had great yield potential. But again, they didn't necessarily fill, and we're not seeing other stressors such as disease in these cases. So here's a couple articles. The first one is from the University of Missouri, and I just highlighted in here. I couldn't quite fit it all in the video with the formatting, but it does acknowledge that, hey, we are seeing some other things that attribute to yield loss with deck to stem bore other than just harvest loss, and being that it does impact the ability of that plant to translocate water and soil nutrients, which we know this year was really important. Here's another take in an article from also specifically Jeff House of the University of Missouri, and he also further talks about that here. So it might be kind of quick read through here. You might have to slow down the video, but I did underline at the end here that basically he says, hey, you can't throw heat, moisture, stress, and all these things at a plant and add other stressors with the insect, specifically deck to stem bore, and not expect an impact from that. So just want to share that piece with you. I guess as I'm out looking at some of these fields, just split some stems open, see what you guys are seeing, see if that correlates. But just a couple of observations I wanted to share and give you guys something to think about if you get a couple of these calls. Thanks, and have a good one.